Friends, today's incident is something you have never heard before, that a cruel father gave his daughter such a huge punishment for fasting that he tied her to a donkey and took oppression to its limit. He kept saying again and again, "Show me where your Allah is. Today I will see your Allah." And he kept forcibly stuffing fragrant foods into her mouth. But then the power of Allah manifested in majesty, and what happened to that man was unbelievable. It was a hot day. The sun was raining fire. On one side, people were busy joking and laughing, and on the other side, there was a terrifying scene that created an uproar throughout the city. A weak girl, her hands and feet bound with ropes, was tied to a donkey. There were slap marks on her face. Her clothes were covered in dust and dirt, and the marks of lashes were clearly visible on her body. A cruel man standing in front of her, holding a thick stick in his hand, was beating her with all his strength. He was shouting and roaring like a wild beast. "Tell me, who will make you break your fast? Today we will see who your Allah is." He struck once, and the girl writhed, but only one sentence came from her tongue. "Allah is with me. Allah is seeing everything." Hearing these words, the man's anger increased even more. He shouted, "I gave you everything to eat and drink, kept you in a palace, gave you servants, and you deceived me. You broke my own law, you became a Muslim and disgraced me." People were watching the spectacle. Some were feeling sorry, some were whispering, but no one had the courage to come forward and stop it. He did not even spare the speechless donkey. The donkey, too, with tears in its eyes, was sobbing and making a failed attempt to save the merchant's daughter. Suddenly, dark clouds covered the sky. The sun that had been blazing now seemed as if someone had hidden it. A strong wind began to blow. People began to look up in amazement, and then a strange scene appeared. The birds standing in the market all began to screech together as if some unknown fear had entered them. There was a tremor in the ground as if the earth had stopped breathing. The donkey that had been standing silently suddenly began to bray loudly as if something had shaken it. The man who had been laughing suddenly was startled. He began to retreat as if some unseen power had pushed him. People cried out in panic, "What is happening?" And then the chains of the girl, who was lying helpless on the ground, began to open by themselves. Someone in the crowd shouted, "Allahu Akbar, Subhanallah." And this was a slap on the face of that merchant who hated Muslims, who hated prayer and fasting. How then did the desire arise in his daughter's heart that she should become Muslim and fast? Come, let us tell you what this story really was. It was a day like ordinary days. There was noise in the market. People were moving about. But one thing was different. A laborer who carried bricks all day suddenly stopped his work, performed ablution, and bowed down on the ground. What is he doing? The girl thought in her heart. The laborer is so tired, and now he is bowing. That was the moment when the first question arose in her mind. Why is this person bowing despite his fatigue? What is that power before which he left everything and bowed? The question came to mind, but she did not have the courage to ask anyone. Seeing such miracles, she was amazed and remained silent. After a few days, the month of Ramadan came, when she saw a weak Muslim child who was near food but was not eating. Many people were mocking that child, but he kept saying, "I am fasting, I will eat at iftar, I will not eat now," and people were making fun of him. "Why is this child hungry?" she asked her father's servant. Shrugging his shoulders with great arrogance, he said, "These crazy people fast. They starve but do not eat." "But why?" the girl asked in amazement. The servant laughed loudly and said, "They think their Allah is watching them, and he will accept their sacrifice." Hearing this, a strange shiver ran through the girl's body. What kind of Allah is this who is watching them? All these questions were revolving in the girl's mind, when one day she saw a secret in the palace. A maid in the palace who was Muslim was secretly praying. The girl was astonished. How can she dare to pray in the palace? If my father finds out, he will kill her. But there was a strange light on the maid's face, as if she had no fear at all. The girl went near her and softly asked, "What are you doing?" The maid was startled but did not panic. "I am bowing before my Lord." "Lord? Who is your Lord?" "The one who is the Lord of all, the one who is the owner of the earth and sky, and the one who knows the states of hearts." The girl fell silent. This was the first time she had heard anything about Allah from the tongue of a Muslim. That night, the merchant's daughter could not sleep. If that same Allah is the Lord of all, is He my Lord too? Is He watching me too? If I also go into prostration, will He hear my prayer too? Thinking all this, she got up and quietly went to a corner of her room and for the first time bowed down on the ground. "O Allah, if you really exist, then show yourself to me." And that moment was the most beautiful moment of her life. The girl's heart had changed. She had understood the truth. Now, for many nights in a row, she even saw a dream in which she was called. From Allah, she received a call in the dream. She saw a white-clad elder, a man of Allah, on a mountain calling her, "Daughter, if you want light, then come to the mountains so that Allah may be shown to you, so that the light of faith may be illuminated in your heart." But she thought, "How will I go to the mountains? If my father sees me going, what will he do to me?" But somehow the girl resolved that she would secretly go to the mountain. She went secretly to the mountains to complete her faith. This place was completely different from the ordinary world. There was no noise, no worldly greed, only silence and an atmosphere filled with strange peace. There, an elder draped in a white sheet was sitting as if he had been waiting for her. He had a book placed in front of him and was worshipping. As soon as he saw the merchant's daughter coming, he immediately said, "You have come, daughter," the elder said with a smile. "Are you the one who came in my dream?" The girl's voice was trembling. "Yes, I called you in the dream because you are in search of the truth that brings hearts to life, the truth that gives the soul light, the truth that the world has denied but which is from Allah. Is this Islam?" "Yes, this is Islam." Tears came into the girl's eyes. Her heart had now changed. "Yes, I want light. I want to come out of this darkness." "Then come with me and bow before your Lord." The girl stood with the elder, raised her hands, closed her eyes and said, "There is no God but Allah. Muhammad is the messenger of Allah." And that moment was the most beautiful moment of her life. Now she used to worship secretly, but inside the palace some people were whispering in low tones. "Is it true?" one servant asked another. "Yes, I have heard it myself. The merchant's daughter has become a Muslim." "Impossible," the other said in fear. "It's true. She went to a man of Allah in the mountains and there she accepted Islam. But this matter was still limited only to the servants. Fate intended something else. Suddenly a person came inside the palace. His steps were fast, there was slight anxiety on his face, because that man had seen the merchant's daughter doing all this. He went straight to the merchant who was sitting on the throne. "Sir, I must tell you something important." "Don't babble, speak clearly," the merchant roared. "Sir, your daughter has become a Muslim." Hearing this, the color of the merchant's face changed. He stood up from the throne. There was anger in his eyes. His hands began to tremble. "This is a lie. My daughter cannot do this." "No, sir, this is true. People saw her with a man of Allah on the mountain, and she accepted Islam there." The merchant went mad with rage. He slammed his fist on the table and moved forward. "This is my greatest humiliation. I will not leave her alive. Call the soldiers. I will give her such a punishment that it will be an example till the end of time." But the merchant's daughter had gone to the mountains. She had no idea. She was sitting with the man of Allah when suddenly the sound of horses came from below. "Who are they?" the girl asked anxiously. The man of Allah took a deep breath as if he already knew everything. "Daughter, the time of trial has come." "What?" The girl was startled. "Your father is coming, and he has come to take you away." The merchant was standing at the front among the soldiers. His eyes were filled with hatred. "Seize her!" the merchant shouted. The soldiers advanced and bound the girl in chains. "Now you cannot be saved. Today I will do such to you that no Muslim will again dare to enter my city." The girl remained silent. There was peace on her face as if she knew that Allah was with her. "I trust in Allah," she said in her heart. The sun was blazing in the sky as if it wanted to burn the earth to ashes. In the middle of the city where people were busy buying and selling, today a new spectacle was set. A cruel merchant tied his own daughter to a donkey and was publicly lashing her. This merchant was not an ordinary man, but the richest and most powerful person in the city. He had one principle. Muslims are the most useless creatures in this world. Their worship is useless, and whoever inclines to this religion is dead to me. But fate turned in such a way that his own daughter became a Muslim. When he learned that his daughter secretly prayed and fasted, his anger reached the sky. Today he wanted to make his daughter a lesson in front of everyone so that no one would dare go against him. He shouted loudly, "Let us see who will save your fast today." And with that, a powerful lash fell on the girl's back. She writhed, but one sentence was on her tongue: "Allah is with me." Hearing these words, the merchant flared up and laughed loudly. "If your Allah really exists, then let him come and save you." And he struck again. Now silence had fallen over the market. Some people were frightened, some stood with bowed heads in sorrow, and some had come only to watch the show. Suddenly, clouds covered the entire sky. People began to look at each other. A strong gust of wind arose. Dust spread throughout the market, as if even the atmosphere were rebelling against this oppression. The donkey that had been standing silently suddenly began to bray loudly, as if some unseen thing had shaken it. The merchant raised his stick again, but as soon as he moved to strike the girl, lightning cracked with a powerful crash. It seemed as if the earth had trembled. The merchant retreated in fear. His hands began to shake. His eyes were ready to pop out in fear. And then everyone saw with their own eyes the scene that was imprinted in their hearts for all time. The girl's chains began to open by themselves. How was this possible? No one had touched them, no one had cut the rope, yet they were slowly opening as if some unseen power had broken her bonds. The whole market resounded. Allahu Akbar, Subhanallah. The merchant's face turned ashen. His hands and feet began to tremble. He screamed, "This is magic! This is trickery!" And then a slight earthquake was felt on the ground. Suddenly, the strength of the merchant's hands was gone. The stick that had been raining, oppression fell to the ground. The merchant's lips began to quiver. What is happening? People stood in wonder and fear, and then the girl who had been lying helpless on the ground stood up. There was a light in her eyes that no ordinary human could have. She looked at her father and said softly, "This is the decision of my Lord which you are denying." But the height of oppression had been reached. The girl was tied to the donkey and whipped. She was humiliated, but she still stood by her word. "The fast is for my Lord and I will not break it." The merchant's face was red with anger. He was proud of his empire, his power and his ego. How could he bear that his own daughter follow a religion he had always called the religion of the weak? But what angered him most was that there was no fear on the girl's face. "Fine," the merchant said in a loud voice. "If you want to fast, then let us see how your Lord saves you." Then the merchant arranged a spread with various foods. Fresh meat that had just been roasted filled the hall with aroma. Fresh fruits plucked from the orchards had intense fragrance. Soft, warm bread soaked in butter. The merchant deliberately kept the punishment. Bowls filled with golden honey with spoons in them. These were foods that were placed in the palace only on special occasions, and today their purpose was only to test one girl. The merchant laughed and said loudly, "Look, the bounties of food are placed before you, and you say you will remain hungry. Let us see how long." Chains were in the girl's hands. She sat with her head lowered, and everyone was laughing. "Eat!" A servant placed a plate before her. "How long will you stay hungry?" said another. The merchant himself picked up a big morsel and began to chew. He filled a big bowl with wine and began to drink so that his daughter would feel pity. "Look, I am eating, I am drinking, everyone is eating. Why are you dying of hunger? Your Allah created you but did not give you food. Look, we are eating, we are powerful, you are weak." They all laughed loudly. The girl closed her eyes. She said in her heart, "O Allah, I trust in you, make me strong." And then the miracle began. The girl looked at the food once and then uttered a sentence with her tongue. "O Allah, my fast is for you, so protect it." Suddenly a fragrance spread in the air, such a fragrance as no one had ever felt in the world. The people sitting in the hall were astonished. As soon as the merchant picked up another morsel of meat, his hand began to tremble. His companions, who were eating with relish, suddenly found the breads in their hands turned to stone. "What is happening?" a person shouted. "What has happened to our food?" said another. Now fear had spread in the hall, and the merchant's face had turned pale. "Is this magic?" the merchant shouted, but his own eyes had widened in fear. Someone from behind said, "This is not magic. This is the power of Allah." People saw that a strange light had appeared on the girl's face, and her chains began to loosen slowly. The merchant wanted to force his daughter to sit before the food and break her fast, but the foods laid on the spread suddenly began to give off a stench like something rotten. The bowls of honey and milk that had been brimming suddenly fell to the ground and dried up. The breads in the food hardened and turned to stone as if they had never been fresh. "What is happening?" someone cried. "This is magic, this is trickery," the merchant said angrily, but sweat had appeared on his forehead. Then came the moment that made everyone's hearts tremble. The girl's chains, which were thick iron shackles, began to open by themselves. People could not believe their eyes. The chains first trembled lightly as if someone had jerked them. Then they began to be pulled strongly as if some unseen power were breaking them, and then with a strong jerk they fully opened and fell to the ground. "Allahu Akbar, Subhanallah!" Voices rose among the crowd. On some faces there was amazement, in some eyes there were tears. The merchant saw the scene with his own eyes, yet was not ready to believe. How can this be? His tongue seemed lost. The courtiers sitting near him, who a few moments earlier had been laughing, were now looking at the ground. There was fear on their faces. "This is not magic," an old servant said softly. "This is a sign of Allah." And then such a wind blew which was not an ordinary wind. It was a hidden message. The chandeliers in the hall suddenly gave off a bright light and then went out at once. The doors of the palace, made of strong wood, began to creak by themselves as if someone were calling them, and then everyone saw the scene that made their hair stand on end. The donkey that had been standing with its head bowed suddenly began to move from its place. It began to bray, and then, freed, it ran in the hall. This donkey too was testifying that it would not tolerate oppression. Now even more people in the palace began to take the name of Allah. The girl looked at her father, who was still standing motionless, and said softly, "This is a sign of my Lord. This is the same Lord whom you are denying." The merchant's lips began to tremble. What is all this? There was fear in his eyes, a fear he had never felt before. The merchant again became very angry. Dragging his daughter, he tied her again with the donkey under the same tree. That tree was completely barren and dry. Standing under it, he began to proclaim, "Look, this is the disobedient girl who, instead of obeying me, has become a slave to someone else." The merchant shouted loudly. "She fasts. She says her Lord is watching her. Today we will see. If Allah truly exists, then He Himself will come and make her break her fast." People were looking at one another. Some were standing with bowed heads in sorrow. Some were laughing, and some were astonished. What was going to happen today? The merchant laughed again and brought the plate of food near his daughter's mouth. "Eat. No Allah will come. No unseen power will come," the girl said softly. "Allah is with me, and He Himself is watching." Suddenly, whispers began in the crowd. Some people moved back as if someone were arriving. "Who is coming?" someone asked in amazement. Suddenly, an elder with a luminous face, dressed in white, appeared in the market. This was the same man of Allah to whom the daughter had gone, from whom she had found guidance. He moved forward slowly, and the crowd automatically opened a path for him. The man of Allah reached the daughter, placed his hand on her head, then turned to the merchant. "Do you want to see the power of Allah with your own eyes?" said the man of Allah. The merchant muttered, "If there truly is an Allah, then show a miracle." The man of Allah looked toward the sky and softly said, "O Allah, you who help your servants, manifest your power today." In the middle of the market there was a dry tree on which no leaf had come for years. Suddenly its dry branches began to move. Screams rose from the crowd. "What is happening?" The tree that had been dry for years, milk suddenly began to drip from one of its branches. First a few drops, then streams. as if milk were flowing from a natural spring. "Allahu Akbar," someone shouted. "How is this possible?" The color of the merchant's face flew. Milk was falling to the ground and fragrance began to spread. People's breaths had halted. Then the same tree on which there had never been fruit began to move, and before their eyes dates appeared on its branches. People began to look at one another in astonishment. It was the same date that is first eaten to break the fast. The man of Allah broke a piece of the date and, looking toward the sky, said, "Will Allah himself open his servant's fast?" Tears came into the girl's eyes. "O Allah, I had trusted in you, and today you yourself have given me the answer." Then she ate that date and opened her fast. The merchant's face had turned pale. His hands were trembling. What was all this? Was it magic? He said in a low voice. The man of Allah said sternly, "This is not magic. It is a sign of Allah. He guides whom He wills and blinds whom He wills." People, seeing the power of Allah, were in amazement. "We have seen the sign of Allah with our own eyes. All this is true. This girl was upon truth and her Allah truly exists." A new commotion had arisen throughout the village. The tree that had been dry for years began to give milk by the power of Allah. One voice was echoing everywhere, "Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar." People were amazed and distressed, but one thing everyone now understood. This miracle was not shown by any magician. Rather, it was the power of Allah. The man of Allah raised both hands toward the sky and, looking at the people, said, "O people, this is the work of Allah. This is the sign of Allah. Come, accept His blessing. Whoever wishes, let him bring vessels from his homes and fill his stomachs with the milk given by Allah." Hearing this announcement, a commotion spread through the whole village. Someone brought an earthen pot. Someone brought a wooden bucket. Someone reached with village vessels to fill with milk. And then, as soon as people placed their vessels under the tree, the milk began to fill them by itself. First one vessel, then another, then a third. The vessels of the whole village were filled with milk. Children, elderly, youth, everyone was drinking milk, shedding tears of amazement and joy. Those same people who were earlier astonished and distressed were now standing with bowls of milk in their hands. Where did this milk come from? This is given by Allah. This is that same Allah whom we never recognized. Everyone drank the milk and was satiated. Some were laughing, some were praying with tears in their eyes, and some had fallen in prostration of gratitude. The man of Allah then raised his hands again and addressed all the people. "O people, you have seen the power of Allah with your own eyes. You have seen for yourselves how Allah tests His servants and then helps them. If you have found the truth, then come, recognize your Lord. Come, accept the word of Allah." Then the man of Allah taught everyone the kalima. "There is no God but Allah. Muhammad is the messenger of Allah. There is no God but Allah. Muhammad is the messenger of Allah." One voice was echoing throughout the village. All the people had become Muslims, and that same merchant who a little while earlier had been oppressing his daughter had himself bowed. The wall of his arrogance had fallen, his pride had ended, and now he fell, weeping at his daughter's feet. "Daughter, forgive me. I have wronged you greatly. I caused you pain. I gave you unjust punishment, but I was wrong. I was heedless." With tears in her eyes, the daughter said, "Father, Allah gives guidance to whom He wills." The merchant, weeping, fell at the feet of the man of Allah and said, "Teach me the kalima too. Make me a Muslim too." The man of Allah smiled, placed his hand on his head, and the merchant also recited the kalima. Now he too had become a Muslim. The man of Allah looked at everyone and with a deep smile said, "My work is complete. My Lord has given guidance to the people here. Now I must go ahead. Other villages, other cities, other people are waiting for me. I will take the message of Allah to every place where people are still in darkness." The man of Allah, dressed in white, left the market toward the mountains and people were giving prayers. The whole village was bidding farewell. People with tears in their eyes watched him go, and he moved on while remembering Allah. Subhanallah, this story teaches us the importance of Allah's power, patience and guidance. The same Allah who tested his servant also honored her with his power. The merchant who was arrogant was made to bow by Allah. Those who were in darkness found light, and the servant of Allah moved forward on the journey of preaching. Allah gives guidance to whom He wills and lets whom He wills go astray. How did you find this incident? Do let us know your opinion in the comments. To hear more such incidents, subscribe to our channel.